So a recurring theme is thinking of the patient. Patient first.
Sure.
That's what's setting you apart.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more to it after that.
Well, I guess let me go this way. Historically, I've always thought about my mindset is always about what's in front of me right now. And so the early part of my career was, the single individual patients that were sitting in front of me, and how I always looked at it is when I close that exam room door, and if you're my patient, the entire focus of the world is on you, and the entire purpose for me is to try to figure out what's going on and bring the force of the world to you. That's why I was an early adopter for things like balloon sinuplasty and oral appliance therapy and in-office CT scans and on and on and on and on. It was because for me it was like when I'm sitting with a patient, I want them to have the confidence that they're sitting in front of somebody that has the single sole intention of making their life better, of solving the problem they have, and has access to all of the effective options that are out there. And that to me, that's a never-ending journey. So there's always going to be new things that get developed. There's new techniques that get developed, and so that I think we've kind of we've been there. I wouldn't say been there, that I still see patients, but now I've trained other clinicians to kind of have that same sort of mindset. And we've created an organization that now has a reach that's greater than I ever imagined, honestly. I mean, we've got a bunch of different clinics, and we're continuing to grow, and that's great. So, but I think what sort of changed, or in some ways, is part of the reason we're sitting here and having this conversation is my recognition that while we're doing great things at Advent, and I'm going to continue to try to do everything in my power to make sure we have a world-class organization there. There is a mission that needs to be accomplished, and I'm the only one, I believe, that is capable of fulfilling the mission. And what is that mission? That mission is putting out the bat signal to everybody in the world. And when I say this, I mean the world. I'm not just talking about America, but I'm talking about everybody in the world to say airway breathing, these conditions, these areas are important. Airway especially. That hasn't been said with clarity. And then it's like, okay, these issues are important. These issues are impactful in ways that most people don't recognize. We've talked about a little bit about that, how devastating and debilitating these conditions are. Okay, understood. These issues are being mistreated right now, meaning that in traditional healthcare models, they don't have access to the tools and technology that exist today to help individuals. That's a problem. And yes, beneath that, there's Advent, which is a single practice that's trying to provide office-based solutions for folks who have breathing triangle issues, which is another way to say airway breathing issues. So all those things are true, but the mission that I was alluding to before, that I am undertaking, that I'm on the road, I'm dragging you along the road with me, that we need to accomplish is I need to get that clarity out there. I need to be the spokesperson. I need to be the person that is, sort of calling out the rallying cry to say airway breathing is a category that exists. You may not have heard about it. Let me tell you about what that means. These issues are important. Airway breathing problems are super important. I need to explain this because people don't know that this category exists. People don't know how bothersome these conditions are. They don't even connect the dots. When people think of sleep apnea, they don't even think about the throat. Just to be clear, obstructive sleep apnea is a throat issue 100% of the time. So if you have sleep apnea, you have a throat condition, the likelihood of you understanding that is almost minimal, almost non-existent, and you almost always have a nose problem. So anyway, I think what I'm going to need to do is distill this message down as simply as that possibly can be and make sure that I am well equipped to deliver this message, and then I'm going to go out into the world and deliver this single message about how problematic these conditions are, and the fact that there are things that could be done about it. And I certainly will still be speaking on behalf of Advent, but I also intend to speak on behalf of all of the people out there who are suffering needlessly from these conditions, whether they have access to Advent services or not. I also intend to be out there speaking on behalf of all of my fellow soldiers who are out there trying to do good work in these areas. So there are a lot of dentists who do a lot of work in the dental sleep community. So they deliver oral appliance therapy for folks who have sleep apnea. I want to be their champion. I want to be out in front. I want to help get them have and serve as many patients as they possibly can serve. I want to do the same thing for my ENT colleagues. I want to, number one, I want to make sure they understand how important their work is, because I don't believe that my colleagues, my own ENT colleagues, I don't think anybody's ever come and sat in front of them and said, hey, do you know what? Airway breathing, do you know what that is? And they'd say, I don't really know. Nose and throat, do you know what that is? Well, yeah, it's like 2 letters in our name. So I think we get that. Well, no. Do you understand how important the nose is and the throat is? Do you understand that those are the only 3 passages that we can breathe through? And that there are millions of people out there who are suffering because those areas are not functioning properly. And hey, the news is you, my friend, are the only person who is capable of doing anything in those areas. And I want to make sure that there's many. Number one, I want to make sure that you understand the power in what you're doing and the importance in what you're doing. Number two, I want to make sure that there's many people as possible have access to your services. That's what I'd like to do. So whether you're with Advent or you're across the street from us, I am here to support you, and I want to make sure that you're successful in that. Because if I can do that, that means more people out there who are suffering have access to services that they deserve. So anyway, I mean, really, it is. What I'm looking to do is to create a movement, that others can join, create a movement that has a name that other people know that, oh, I'm part of that. Because right now we have these fragmented communities that don't know that they're all working for a greater good. So if you're a dentist in a single office somewhere, you don't know that you are a fellow airway-breathing champion, but you are, and I'm here to support you. If you're an ENT in a single office, somewhere, you don't know that you're an airway-breathing champion, but you are, and I want to make sure that I'm supporting you in any way that I can. For people out there who are suffering, I want to make sure that they have a name to put on their condition. Like, I don't want people to have to walk around and wonder, oh, I don't know, who should I see? I got this nose problem, I got this throat problem, I'm not sure. You need to make sure that you know that these problems are real, they're serious, they're important, they're impactful. You don't need to live like this. You do need to get in front of somebody who understands the power of these conditions and has the tools to help you. And I want to help you. I want to help to connect you with the right resources that way. So that's like, a mouthful, but all of those things are what I'm looking to do as I move in a forward direction. And there's a lot of work to do.
Well, you don't need to you don't need to live like this. That's probably the most important thing that people have to realize, that they can be better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, part of it, again, we've talked about understanding before. We haven't talked about, and it's going to be a weird way to think about it, but, in order to truly understand something, people need to be able to kind of put it in a box. And how we as human beings do that is we have categories. And what is a category? A category is 5-hour energy drink. That didn't exist as a category. Now, people were dragging their butts around before 5-hour energy, and there was coffee and there was other things. But they created a category, and they created something that was in that category to sort of solve this problem. And all of a sudden, then you're like, okay, human beings need to be able to put things in the right box in order to understand it. The problem with the stuff that the conditions that we're talking about, that they're up until now, there hasn't been a way for people to just put it in the right box in their mind. So airway breathing is a box to put it in. If you can't breathe through your nose, you got an airway breathing problem. If your sinuses aren't working properly, you got an airway breathing problem. If you have sleep apnea, you got an airway breathing problem. If you snore, you got an airway breathing problem. Okay, and so I think if people understood that and were able to simply say, oh, that's that. And secondarily or simultaneously understood, oh, wow, not only is that the right box to put this in, that's not like the box we're going to put in the basement in the dusty shelf in the corner. That's the box you're going to put on a pedestal in the very front and center of your universe, because that's literally where it is. And you're going to say, this is something I can't mess around with. I need to do something about this. I got an airway problem. I need to get it corrected, because every breath I take, it's going to impact me, and 20,000 times a day is a lot. So I guess what I'm saying is, and I want to make sure that the clinicians and the providers that are providing care for these services also have a box to put this in. And this isn't the dingy box that's, up in the attic in the corner. This is on a pedestal. The most precious thing that we do as clinicians is protect, preserve, optimize the airway. There's nothing more important than that. And so I'm looking to make sure that people have understanding about how important these conditions are. I'm looking to make sure that there is respect, proper respect. It's like the Rodney Dangerfield of conditions, I feel, is the things I am most passionate about. Are these things that, when I say that, I mean, like, people joke about snoring and it's like, that guy, he snores. And Rodney Dangerfield, I guarantee you, snored. And I'd say, just knowing how he looked, I'd say, I guarantee you he had sleep apnea. Part of his shtick, I'll have to look through the archives, but part of his shtick was that. Is it sort of like, he got no respect for those. I mean, he's an old timer. I don't think a lot of people know Rodney Dangerfield. He got no respect. And I'd say these airway breathing conditions, we got no respect. Like, we got no respect. People make fun of us. They joke about us. They say, you snore, you got a condition like this, your mouth breather, all these things. And I'd say, understood, and when the lack of respect, I understand why it exists. So part of what I'm hoping to achieve is to achieve a level of respect and dignity for these conditions, for people who are suffering with these conditions, for providers who are providing services to help with people who have these conditions. So, instead of that Rodney Dangerfield, like, hey, it's kind of funny and haha, again, I like to laugh too. I don't want to, I don't have nothing against that, but it's more like, no, this is serious. It's important. We could do something about it. We will do something about it. And that really, basically that's the path I'm on in a move forward direction. So it's greater than Advent. It attaches itself to this sort of greater mission. It attaches itself to a condition that is hyper prevalent and is super misunderstood, misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, undertreated, diminished, all of those things.
Well, being undertreated and diminished when there are very simple solutions to solve these problems seems really...
Absolutely. That's the thing. The thing is like, if you, the good news is these things are coming together. So I'm standing at the crossroads right now. The crossroads meaning these conditions are becoming more and more prevalent. The solutions have become better and better and more user-friendly. Now, I happen to exist in a healthcare system that's fundamentally broken and is incapable of delivering these solutions. But aside from that, I figured out a way to get out ahead of that broken system to help people. And now I can get on to the mission of making sure that the world understands all of these things we talked about and making sure, I actually, part of my goal, part of my mission is to educate people, people out in the world who are suffering from these conditions about that these exist. Here's the category you can think about when you think about them. Here's how to understand these conditions. Here are some solutions that exist in this day and age to come after them. So part of what I'm trying to do and part of what I will do if I'm successful is I'm going to arm all of the individuals out there who are suffering with these conditions with the knowledge and insight to ask the specific questions to the system or providers that they're coming into, armed and dangerous. I want people out in the world to be armed and dangerous with knowledge. And how I hope to do that is to break it down so simply that they can understand it clearly. So if you're suffering, we talked about this a bit ago, if you're suffering with a nose problem and you go to see your primary care doc, I want you to go in armed with the language of saying, hey, I got this nose problem. I was listening to this guy and he made it actually sound pretty simple. He says, I either got an anatomy problem or a lining problem. What do you think? And what you're going to do to that primary care doc? You're going to put that primary care doc back on his heels. And they're going to be like, what? How do you know so much about this condition? Because I just want to hand you this spray, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. So what I want you to do is walk into that office, and I don't want you to tell them what to do. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to tell them how to think, which is, this is what's going on. I have this problem. My understanding is it's not that complicated. There are some simple pathways to do. I want to know, do you understand, do you agree with that concept? And if you do agree with that, can you help me find access to the solutions that might exist? Because I don't want to be, in this example, I don't want to be running around the pharmacy aisle trying to scratch my head, figure out what to do. I want help. I want relief. A condition we haven't talked about, and it's very much on the same wavelength, is if you think you have sleep apnea, if you're snoring and it's like, either you have it or you think you have it. Most people who don't seek treatment for sleep apnea don't seek treatment. Well, most people who have sleep apnea don't seek treatment. Most people who have sleep apnea who don't seek treatment because they don't want the treatment that exists. And that meaning CPAP. So yes. CPAP is like, that's this thing. Do I have to wear this mask? And I heard all this, it doesn't work, and so forth and so on. Regardless of all those things. So if you have sleep apnea, I want you to know with clarity, you obstructive sleep apnea. So just to be super clear, you have a throat condition. Your throat is too small for your body. Almost assuredly, you're going to have a nose or sinus anatomy that's also too small for your body. So what you need to do is you need to find a resource. You need to get access to a resource who can at least understand that situation and will allow you to have access to the solutions that exist in this day and age. And how can we help you? I'm going to make you armed and dangerous with the knowledge. And here's the knowledge is what we're looking to do is make sure if you have sleep apnea, what do we need to do? We need to make sure your throat is staying open when you sleep at night. Hey, okay, understood. CPAP, is that an option? That's an option. Is there another option? Oral appliance therapy is another option. Most people, when given those options, will choose oral appliance therapy over CPAP. Most people are never given that option. So here's how I'm going to make you armed and dangerous. When you go in to seek out treatment, I want you to know when they're talking to you, if you get a sleep test and it shows you have sleep apnea, I'll pretty much guarantee you what they're going to say next is you're going to need a CPAP machine. And I want you, if you're armed and dangerous, to say, time out. I've heard there's some other options. I hear that this is a throat condition. I hear that in addition to CPAP, there's an oral appliance that might be an option. Do you have access to that? And if the clinician says, I don't know what that is, or no, I don't have access to it. Okay, I understand that. Now, the other thing I'm going to tell you if you have sleep apnea is make sure that your nose is working, because in that scenario I just sort of described, the other thing I want you to know, and armed and dangerous, is your nose is the start of your airway. If your nose isn't working properly, CPAP's not going to work properly, oral appliance therapy is not going to work properly. So make sure that your nose is either at least evaluated, if not optimized, before you try any of those things. So I believe I can make it as simple as is necessary to arm normal people out in the world with the information that they need, so that when they interact with the healthcare system, they can put their force of will on it. So imagine a world where instead of this big bureaucratic system that's going to do unto you whatever the hell it wants to do to you, imagine if you could go to that system and you could be armed and dangerous to create the situation to allow the care to kind of play out the way that is possible in this day and age. That's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm looking to do.
Well, hopefully they choose to come to Advent before they take that
honestly
step.
On this,
I mean, the intentions are good, and you want to just make sure people are getting the care that they need, even if it's not through Advent.
Absolutely, that's what I'd say. I mean, I'd say, yeah. Would I rather somebody come to Advent and come through our system? Absolutely. Why? Because I know we're not going to give you the runaround. We're going to follow a proven process. Like that's why I'm looking to make Advent the best organization I can make it. On the flip side, if you have no access to us, if we're not available to us, or to you, I should say, then I want to make sure, at the very least, I want to make sure you now know how to think about these things. You know they're important. That when you go in, you're armed and dangerous. And whether it's Advent or somewhere else, I'm confident. I'm actually confident in this day and age that if somebody is properly informed when they're seeking out care, that they will be able to find access to these solutions wherever they are. Now, it's not going to be easy, and I'm here to help. I guess let me just make that clear. Part of what I'm hoping to do is be available as a resource for not just individuals, but for communities that are sort of trying to figure this stuff out, to put together a treatment plan, a regimen, a pathway that can work. But at the end of the day, I'm looking to help people, and the only way to help people is, again, it starts with education. It starts with knowledge. People diminish that, and again, that wasn't my primary goal when I started on this road, but it has become my primary goal right now. My primary goal right now is to educate, inform people so that they can do the right thing for themselves and do the right thing for others. And if that happens to sort of lead them towards Advent, so be it. That's great, and I hope we serve you honorably. If that happens to be that you get, honestly, for me, at this point in my career, if it's me making somebody aware so they get into proper treatment for their airway breathing conditions, and that doesn't happen at Advent, I'm going to count that as a win too. I mean, it's not a direct win in the way that most people would consider it. To me, I consider it a win. And I'll give you a very specific example. Back to CPAP and oral appliance therapy is if somebody hears me talk about this topic, and somebody now is now armed and dangerous with the knowledge of there's an alternative to CPAP that I just heard this guy talking about, and this person interacts with the system, and that maybe that option is something that's more appealing to this person, and this person sort of ask the right questions. That's all you're going to need to do is just ask the right question, and I can help make sure that you're framing those questions properly to steer their care in the right direction to get them into an oral appliance that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten into instead of a CPAP machine. And that's the right treatment for them. And that now holds their airway open so that they can breathe properly at night so they can sleep properly, so forth and so on. That's a win.
Well, that speaks to where this is all really coming from, deep down in the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think to me, it's just, I've now understood there's a mission that's greater than just what we're doing at Advent. That's mission that's greater than just myself. I can serve that greater mission in the way that I can serve it. And because I have a track record, I mean, I've got credentials that are not too shabby. I've actually done some things that in my opinion, are not too shabby. And I think I both have the opportunity, and I believe I have the ability to communicate a message effectively to make sure that people out in the world are able to take action. And if that's what I can do, and I know I can do it, I will do that. And that's what we're going to do.